in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. I was merely a daughter raised in the Wu family estate. When our wedding day was approaching, Victor Wu boldly declared he wanted to marry Princess Grace Yan as his principal wife, because she could bring great advantages to his official career path. He even said, "Once she bears a legitimate son, I'll make you a concubine." How could I willingly endure such humiliation? So I immediately proposed to break off the engagement. Who would have thought that Grace Yan would intercept me at the end of the street, smiling as she said, "If we cannot be sisters-in-law, then why not become my sister-in-law by marrying my elder brother?" Speaking of which, my father once hated me so much that he ordered an 8-year-old child like me to be placed in a coffin and personally nailed it shut. But originally, he wasn't so heartless at all. He was a beloved disciple of Chancellor Yan. My father had once made people admire him when, at a young age, he held a third-rank position. His temperament was naturally gentle and quiet. Though not close to me, he would occasionally check on my studies and even wore at his waist a fragrance pouch that I had clumsily sewn for him. Until my 8th birthday, when the steward set off firecrackers in celebration, Chancellor Yan's sedan chair happened to pass by our estate. He entered and called me over to chat. Seeing that I answered quickly and cleverly, he praised me warmly, then pointed to the young man in white robes behind him and asked what I thought of him. I naively replied, "That brother is like snow on a mountaintop." This comment made Chancellor Yan burst into laughter, then he turned to my father and said, "These two children have destiny together, why not arrange an engagement?" My father was horrified and immediately knelt down to refuse, saying I was of common background and unworthy of his lordship's grandson. But Chancellor Yan wouldn't listen, removed a string of beads from his wrist, pressed them into my hand and said, "Let it be settled then." After he left, my father's face turned deathly pale. He raised his hand and slapped me hard, grinding out through his teeth. "I've always taught you to be humble and keep a low profile, never to stand out." I didn't understand why everyone else wanted to curry favor with Chancellor Yan for advancement. Wasn't father the same? I only wanted to help him, but he said nothing more, only coldly ordered the steward to throw it into the lake. The icy late autumn water made me fall ill, causing a rash to appear. But father still didn't stop there, he even prepared a coffin. When I clutched his hand, pleading and begging that since I'd had no mother from childhood, he was now my only family, promising to be obedient, even pretending to be mute if necessary, just begging him not to kill me. Yet he remained unmoved, only coldly poured medicine down my throat, making me lose consciousness in a haze. By my ear, I only vaguely heard his choked voice, telling the Yan family servants that his unfortunate daughter had passed away, and that he would come to the Chancellor's estate in a few days to apologize. The steward mentioned it was time, and father replied, "Let me do it myself." Then I sank into darkness. The sound of nails being hammered rang out rhythmically, like needles piercing my soul, making me think I would truly die in that coffin. But thanks to the Chen family servants' careless work and shallow burial, after a heavy rain, the coffin was washed into the river by the flood. An elderly woman living alone happened to discover sounds coming from within and pulled me out, saving my life. She once asked who I was, and I only said I couldn't remember anything. She didn't ask further. Having no children, she treated me like her own daughter, raising and loving me with all her heart. Whatever I wanted, she tried her best to provide, only insisting that I must never remove the veil covering my face when going outside. She said I was too beautiful, and in such a countryside, being too beautiful would bring no good fortune. Where she lived wasn't far from the capital, so we could still hear news. I heard people discussing that my father had now reached second rank, with some angrily spitting and mocking. Just Chancellor Yan's hunting dog, advancing only through flattery. Only when I left the prosperity behind did I learn that Chancellor Yan, that perpetually refined gentleman, was actually the one who had manipulated court politics for 20 years, hated by the people to the bone, and my father was his most capable right-hand man. Thinking back, I suddenly remembered an incident from childhood when I woke up at noon and couldn't find Hong Xiao anywhere. I searched everywhere and caught sight of my father pressing her head into a water jar with his hands. I was so young then, but because I respected him, I pretended not to see anything. No matter what rumors circulated outside, I maintained my composure. Until one day in a tea house, someone said something that made my heart clench. This time I witnessed the entire Chen family being executed. Someone asked, "Which Chen family?" The other replied, "Who else? Isn't it Thomas Chen, the Minister of Revenue?" My hand holding the teacup trembled slightly, causing the tea to spill over. The person continued to describe in detail how hundreds of soldiers stormed into the Chen estate, ransacking everything, seizing countless gold and silver, then placing a blade to my father's neck. He didn't hesitate for a moment before charging straight into it, ending his own life with that very blade. I kept repeating in my heart, "This has nothing to do with you. You've been dead for a long time." Yet my heart wouldn't stop racing wildly, making it impossible to sit still. I immediately stood up and hurried home. As soon as I reached the door, I saw a long silk hanging from the osmanthus branch. Nanny Chen had just heard the commotion and came out to greet me. Upon seeing the silk, her face immediately turned ashen and she collapsed to the ground. I hurried to help her up, but she pushed my hands away and urgently said, "Quick, pack your things. We must leave immediately, the faster, the better." Dark clouds gathered thickly, signaling that a summer storm was about to pour down. She gripped my hand tightly, her eyes full of worry. "There's no time left. We must go right now." When we arrived at the Wu family estate, the sky had darkened completely. My dress was covered in mud so heavy it seemed to bend my back. Nanny Chen still wouldn't let go of my hand, leading me to kneel before the main gate. Tears mixed with the endless rain, her voice choked with emotion. "Young miss, I was originally your father's servant. Now that the Chen family has met disaster, I fear you have nowhere to turn. But the master had made arrangements early. The Wu family will take you in as their daughter so you can continue to live." Vincent Wu was known for his romantic affairs, and there were plenty of love stories surrounding him. Having someone bring a child claiming to be his flesh and blood wasn't too hard to believe. Nanny Chen kept urging me to kowtow, bow deeply, bow with all your might, striking my head against the ground repeatedly. Blood began to trickle from my forehead, both painful and cold. Both Nanny Chen and I were pale-faced, trembling in the pouring rain. The sky grew darker, and the tightly shut side gate was like a giant mouth ready to swallow two desperate people. It turned out that all these years, my father had only pretended to submit to Chancellor Yan while secretly gathering evidence. But perhaps this time he had been discovered, leading to this great disaster. And back then, he didn't want me to be dragged into it, so he staged my death to let me escape. It turned out he had secretly planned an escape route for me. It turned out he truly loved me. In this world, there are separations more painful than death, because they represent the most silent way of expressing love. My father had once done great favors for the Wu family, and Vincent had promised to treat me like his own flesh and blood. Yet now we knelt prostrate before his door without anyone showing concern. I struggled to stand up, leaning against the stone lion, my voice hoarse. "Nanny Chen, this place cannot shelter us. Let's go." She was still sobbing. "Young miss, that red silk is a signal your father left behind. If we don't escape in time, I fear we'll be hunted down tomorrow morning. The master calculated everything carefully. This is the only path to survival for you. I owed a debt to someone and must fulfill their dying wish." After saying this, she began kowtowing frantically, to the point where no matter how I tried to pull her away, I couldn't stop her. In the end, I could only stand in silence. If I left, she would surely follow. Just then, the side gate suddenly opened with a heavy creaking sound. Two young men, one in white robes, one in purple, stood on the high stone steps, their black hair swaying in the rain. My gaze unconsciously lingered on the man in white, my heart seeming to stop beating. It was him. Years ago, that white-robed youth had stood behind Chancellor Yan and had nearly become my betrothed. He was Prince Adrian of Jing, son of the third princess, the emperor's sister, and Mason Yan, the second young master most favored by Chancellor Yan. Back then he was only 11 or 12 years old. Now, years later, he had become even more noble and handsome. I immediately lowered my head, burying my face against the cold wet stone steps, deeply hoping that with the dark night and dim lamplight, plus the fact that my appearance had changed somewhat, he wouldn't recognize me. My heart pounded like war drums as I heard a familiar voice ring out. "Your father is truly irresponsible, causing trouble outside and leaving behind an illegitimate child. Now the child seeks him out, yet he doesn't dare show his face. Standing beside him was Victor, Vincent's only son, his expression stern as he spoke up. Bring them in first. The steward hesitated, but the master had instructed. Victor cut him off, frowning with irritation. Father, let me explain. Can't you even listen to me? The steward quickly bowed. I wouldn't dare. So he immediately called for someone to help Nanny Chen and me into the estate. When passing by Adrian Yan, I bowed even lower. Yet he still asked, Are you already betrothed to someone? Had he recognized me? I shook my head slightly, my heart racing in my chest. Victor stood to one side, his gaze increasingly suspicious, looking me up and down before curling his lips in a cold smile. Tell your father to find a teach you proper etiquette again. With such bearing, I fear you'll only be able to stay quietly in your chambers for life. After enduring the great upheaval and being drenched in rain all night, when everything had temporarily settled, I collapsed. When I regained consciousness, 5 days had passed. Opening my eyes, I immediately saw Vincent and his wife sitting beside the bed. I had met him when I was young. He remained the same as before, his gaze gentle. Finally, you're awake. That day, my wife and I were sleeping soundly, and the servants didn't dare wake us, causing you to stand in the pouring rain for too long. If anything had happened to you, how could I face your parents in the afterlife? This time you fell seriously ill, and I am truly at fault. At that time, I was already a dependent, and since he had offered me a ladder, I followed along graciously. Uncle Wu, don't blame yourself. It was because the servants didn't convey the message clearly. His expression softened, then he turned to call out, Victor, come quickly to see your fiancé. I involuntarily sat up abruptly, my mind spinning with one thought. Hadn't they said they would take me in as a daughter? Why had I suddenly become a daughter-in-law instead? Mrs. Wu placed her hand on my shoulder, saying gently, Dear child, if we took you in as a daughter, you would ultimately just be an adopted one and would have difficulty finding a proper match later. Your father did great favors for the Wu family. How could we bear to let you suffer such disadvantage? We thought it over carefully, and only an engagement between you and Victor would be the best choice. From now on, you'll be the future mistress of the Wu family, and no one will dare bully you. But I understood clearly that this certainly wasn't the complete reason. Looking around, I realized Nanny Chen had disappeared. The Wu family servants said they had sent her away from the capital for safety, but ultimately, was it really for protection, or to isolate me, making her a pawn in their hands? This couldn't be determined for now. I could only remain silent and wait for the right moment. Within half a month, the entire capital knew me by the name Chu Wangshu, a granddaughter-in-law who had been betrothed long ago by the Wu family ancestors in Quzhou, and who had wandered here seeking refuge after her family met disaster. Vincent kept his word and didn't break the engagement, despite my orphaned and impoverished state, becoming a tale that everyone praised. Even His Majesty mentioned him during court, praising his loyalty and righteousness. At that time, I was only 14 years old and Victor was 17, an appropriate age for engagement. Victor was handsome and tall, also considered learned and talented throughout the capital, but he didn't value this marriage arrangement in the slightest. That day, he invited several close friends to compose poetry in the pavilion by the lake. Mrs. Wu sent me to bring tea and refreshments. I didn't expect Adrian Yan to be among them. The daylight was much clearer than that rainy night, making it impossible for me to easily avoid his gaze. Just as I turned to leave, he spoke up, Victor, is this your fiancé? You haven't even met properly, yet you're already planning to leave. Victor replied indifferently. Her background is humble. She's never been in the presence of distinguished guests before. Then he looked at me and said, Wangshu, come greet my friends. I bowed my head and approached to pay respects to each person. On the table was Victor's 7-character poem, technically adequate but utterly hollow in content. His so-called talent was merely this level. Adrian Yan raised an eyebrow and asked, Miss Chu, won't you comment on this poem? I bowed my head and replied, I've only learned a few characters and wouldn't dare critique poetry. Victor laughed mockingly. She grew up in the countryside of Quzhou, probably only knows a few lines from women's primers. Brothers, don't laugh at her. He waved his hand dismissively. Bringing tea is sufficient. You may withdraw. When walking through the corridor, I deliberately slowed my pace. As expected, Adrian Yan followed. He looked at me, his words cold. From being an illegitimate daughter to becoming a fiancée. Do you think you've latched onto a high branch? I lowered my head and said quietly, I only need a place to shelter. He smiled coldly. The Wu family isn't a refuge, but an abyss thousands of feet deep. One careless step and you'll be shattered to pieces. Father's teachings echoed in my mind about knowing how to endure, but if I retreated one step, he would advance 10 feet, better to decisively cut off the escape route. I raised my head to look directly at him, smiled brilliantly, and gently tugged at his waist sash, my voice sweet as silk. Your Highness worries so much about me. Why not marry me and protect me for life? Adrian Yan startled and stepped back 2 paces, his voice icy. Chu Wang Shu, I advise you to look in a mirror. Wanting to use this prince as a stepping stone to climb higher. You're truly daydreaming. He turned and walked away, his retreating figure seeming somewhat flustered as if fleeing. Good, he was a member of the Yan family. Perhaps one day he would recognize me. So making him detest me from now on was the best form of self-protection. Mrs. Wu indeed treated me well, providing everything I needed. She carefully prepared for every banquet, taking me along to make connections. I didn't completely trust their kindness, but I also didn't understand why they favored me so much. Until the day we attended a banquet at Master Yan Shilang's estate. She deliberately dressed me more lavishly than usual. The new dress was made from Lu Yun brocade, the rarest in the capital. The maid praised it endlessly while arranging my hair, saying even the young ladies in the estate had never worn such fabric. Madame truly cherishes the young miss. But an ominous feeling rose in my heart. I repeatedly asked to change into something simpler, but Mrs. Wu still gently said, You deserve to enjoy the best things. Rest assured I will protect you. The host of the banquet was Master Yan Shilang, Chancellor Yan's nephew. With Vincent's current position, he normally wouldn't qualify to attend. The Yan family clan rose through power, everyone appearing righteous on the surface while scheming behind the scenes. During the banquet, Mrs. Wu excused herself to change clothes, leaving me alone sitting by the lotus pond. Just then, Lily Yan, the second young miss of the Yan family, approached with a bright smile, praising my dress's magnificence, then suddenly asked, Do you know how deep this lotus pond is? I replied, I don't know. She laughed cheerfully. I don't know either. Then why don't you go down and test it for me? As soon as she finished speaking, 2 maids behind her immediately pushed me into the pond. Miss Chu, please help me test whether this pond can drown someone. I flailed about, my feet stepping into layers of soft mud with no solid footing, as the water pulled me deeper and deeper. In my struggle, I vaguely saw a flash of purple fabric in the corridor. It was Mrs. Wu. I opened my mouth to call for help, but she had already quietly turned away behind the stone wall. I desperately wondered why. Lily Yan retracted her smile, her eyes cold as ice. You stole what belongs to me, so I'll take your life, that's fair. In that moment, I suddenly awakened to the truth. Master Yan Shilang had no sons, only 2 daughters. The eldest had already married, while Lily Yan was infatuated with Victor and even wanted him to marry into the Yan family as a son-in-law. But the Wu family had only one male heir, Victor. How could they let him become someone else's live-in son-in-law? Yet they didn't dare openly oppose the powerful Yan family clan. So I was pushed from the position of daughter to daughter-in-law. This marriage had even been mentioned by His Majesty in court. Since it couldn't be changed, the only option was to secretly end it. To completely sever ties with the Yan family required a strong enough reason, and the Wu family had devised a treacherous move to have me killed right at the Yan family banquet. If I died in the lotus pond, Master Yan Shilang would find it hard to escape responsibility. This would eliminate me, the one bearing the identity of fiancé, while also bringing disgrace to the Yan family, ensuring they would never dare mention forced marriage again. But they hadn't anticipated that I knew how to swim. After being taken in by Nanny Chen, she didn't teach me feminine accomplishments like music and chess, but focused on teaching me survival skills. Perhaps that's why, while struggling between life and death, I suddenly remembered Father's words, Wang Shu, you must remember, survival is more important than anything else. Back then, I had asked why the steward advised Father not to do things that could cost him his life. He was silent for a long time before saying, Father was wrong, because sometimes what's more precious than life itself is the lives of others. I'm sorry, Wang Shu. Father has only one child but receives salary from the realm. There are things that must be done, Otherwise it's hard to find peace. I was still young then, and didn't fully understand the deep meaning in his gaze. Although I could swim, if I surfaced immediately, Lily Yan certainly wouldn't stop there. So I flailed while deliberately shouting loudly for help to draw more people over. Then I pretended to drown, using the lotus leaves as cover to quietly follow the water's current and retreat. The pond water connected from the rear courtyard to the front courtyard. When I surfaced near the large willow tree in the front courtyard, I heard a female voice calling out. I just saw her there, wearing Lu Yun brocade with delicate jewelry. You could tell how much Mrs. Wu favored her. Everyone praised her beauty. Immediately after came a familiar voice, cold and disdainful, foolish and ignorant. Truly not worth wasting thoughts on. It was him. If I wanted to safely escape the Yan estate, I could only rely on him now. Just as this thought flashed through my mind, I immediately ducked my head underwater, took a deep breath, feeling suffocation rising as my body grew heavy, as if truly about to drown. Big brother, look over there. A maid with quick reflexes had already pulled me from the water. I coughed violently, water gushing from my mouth, my eyes brimming with tears as I looked at him with a voice weak as silk. Many thanks to your highness for saving my life. He stared at me intently, his gaze never leaving. You were drinking tea in the rear courtyard. How did you end up drowning under the willow tree in the front courtyard? I wrapped my cloak tightly around myself, bowing my head and speaking softly about being carried here by the current. Then continued, young master has saved me twice now. I truly don't know how to repay you. His gaze grew colder, the corner of his mouth curling slightly in mockery. Stop pretending. Do you really think I don't recognize you? He stepped closer, enunciating each word. Miss Chen, I want to take something from you. Something your father left behind. The commotion from the rear courtyard grew so loud it seemed like heaven and earth were tilting. Since this involved a human life, all the guests in the estate, regardless of gender, rushed out to see. Mrs. Wu gripped the railing, tears streaming down her face as she wailed tragically. My child, oh my child, nothing can happen to you. I still hope to see you marry Victor. Still hoped you would bear grandchildren for the Wu family. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have left you alone just because you like the lotus pond. If something happens to you, how can I face your parents in the 9 Springs? Victor stood beside her, gently supporting her shoulder with a soothing voice. Mother, don't blame yourself. Ever since she entered our estate, you've treated her like your own flesh and blood. If something truly happened to her, it would only be because her parents in the underworld missed her and called her to join them. No one could be blamed. Lily Yin also put on an appearance of regret, speaking sadly. It's all due to my poor arrangements. Today there weren't enough servants, so I failed to assign someone to watch the lotus pond. The crowd pressed around them, some comforting Mrs. Wu, others telling Lily Yan not to blame herself. The Wu family's favor. Mrs. Wu wiped away her tears with a handkerchief. Her shoulders, which had been tense, now relaxed slightly, as if a burden in her heart had been lifted. At that very moment I spoke in a weak voice. Mrs. Wu, Brother Victor, Miss Yan. All three immediately froze, turning their heads in unison to look back. The expressions on their faces at that moment could only be described as extraordinarily dramatic. Everyone around simultaneously paid their respects. Greetings to Prince Adrian of Jing, greetings to Princess Grace. Only then did Mrs. Wu and Victor come to their senses, hurrying forward to thank the Yan siblings for their rescue. Adrian Yan's voice was cold as icy. Mrs. Wu, your people are poorly trained. Don't bring them out carelessly. If something had happened to her today, would our Yan family have to bear the reputation of treating human lives like grass? Mrs. Wu and Victor immediately broke into cold sweats, almost wanting to kneel and apologize. Lily Yan stood nearby, still maintaining her composure, but clearly there was a gleam of satisfaction in her eyes. Unexpectedly, Adrian Yan turned to look at her, continuing his cold scolding. One banquet with so many oversights. When you go out, don't claim to be from the Yan family. I find it disgraceful. Both sides were severely reprimanded, and he then led his sister Grace Yan away. When passing by me, he lowered his voice, speaking only for me to hear. That thing is like a death charm to you. Give it to me, and I'll guarantee your safety. In this entire capital, only I can preserve your life. But I knew clearly that father had never left anything behind, and even if he had, how could I trust someone bearing the Yan surname? Just then Grace Yan turned back to ask Victor's name. After receiving an answer, she smiled brilliantly. I remember now. My brother speaks rather harshly, don't take it to heart. I hope we'll have another chance to meet. The banquet atmosphere had completely collapsed. Mrs. Wu's face was gloomy as she immediately led everyone back to the estate. On the way home, Victor remained indignant, walking while fuming. Prince Adrian of Jing is the same age as me. In terms of appearance and talent, I'm not inferior to him in any way. He just happened to choose a better birthplace than me. Then he lowered his voice, revealing excitement. But this is the first time I've met Princess Grace. I didn't expect her to be so gentle. Mother, she just asked for my name. Could it be that? Mrs. Wu glanced at me, coldly cutting him off. Return to the estate first, then we'll talk. Her eyes were red, rimmed as she gripped my hand tightly, her voice hoarse. Dear child, preventing you from being adopted as a daughter, and then arranging your engagement with Victor. All of this was my doing. I had no choice. Can you please not tell Master Wu about what happened today at the Yan estate? I swear on the rise and fall of the entire Wu family that nothing like this will happen again. Victor interrupted with dissatisfaction. Mother, why apologize? The Wu family saved her from death. Her suffering a little is only proper. She grew up in the countryside. If not for concealing our relationship with the Yan family, how could she have the opportunity to become my wife? She can't even compare to a single hair of Princess Grace. Mrs. Wu immediately shouted, "Shut your mouth." She turned back to me, both apologizing and reassuring, promising that after this incident, Lily Yan would never dare trouble me again, telling me to rest assured as the Wu family's daughter-in-law. But in my heart, a suspicion arose, could everything be within Mrs. Wu's calculations? I didn't react hastily, only listened silently. Mrs. Wu seemed to read the thoughts in my eyes and made her final promise. When your wedding day comes, I'll bring Nanny Chen back so you two can be reunited. Clearly, she was using both soft and hard tactics. I took a deep breath and smiled. Madam, what are you saying? Now I am the Wu family's daughter-in-law. Honor and disgrace are naturally shared. Master Wu is busy with court affairs. Why would we trouble him with such small matters? Mrs. Wu's face relaxed as she breathed a sigh of relief. We had just turned the corner leading back to the estate when we hadn't even stepped through the small gate. Boom! A tremendous explosion rang out like heaven and earth collapsing. The entire estate shook, and thick smoke billowed upward. The rear gate was suddenly barred from outside. Then waves of black-clad figures rushed out from the smokescreen, killing anyone they encountered. The maids and servants who couldn't react in time were all stabbed straight through the neck. Blood sprayed through the air, splattering onto both my face and Victor's. Victor stood frozen in the smoke, screaming like a madman, "Murder! There are assassins!" In an instant, Mrs. Wu grabbed her son and ran toward the rear courtyard, abandoning me to stand alone in the chaos. I met the gaze of an assassin charging toward me. His cold stare made my whole body break out in goosebumps. There was only one option: run. I plunged into the thick smoke, relying on my memory of the terrain, following the gaps behind the artificial rocks to hide myself. Outside, there were still screams of agony, sounds of blood splattering, and swords swinging endlessly. I pulled out my hairpin, tore my dress, scraped my face against the artificial rocks to make my clothes dirty and torn, then used the silver pin to stab my palm and smear blood on my chest. The footsteps grew closer. The assassins had tracked near here. Now there was only one final move left. I was about to collapse beside the artificial rocks when suddenly a hand from behind covered my mouth tightly, and a hoarse voice spoke right by my ear. It was Vincent, his clothes stained with blood. He must have been injured. He didn't say much, just decisively pulled my hand. Follow me. There's a secret passage in the rear courtyard. The thick smoke and strong metallic smell of blood made each step feel like trading on the boundary between life and death. The voice of the assassin leader rang throughout the estate. Master Wu, if you hand over the person, I guarantee to spare the lives of everyone in the estate, young and old. Don't force me to take action. Mrs. Wu's panicked voice rang out. Vincent, Vincent, save me. But Vincent didn't stop, his grip on me tightening. Quickly, we must cross the stone bridge by the lotus pond. He found a stone slab hidden behind artificial rocks and gently turned it. A dark cave entrance appeared. He urged me to enter quickly, then turned to me. His voice choked. Wang Shu, Uncle Wu fears he can no longer protect you. Remember carefully who your father trusted when he was alive. Go find that person and ask them to help you survive. I gripped his hand tremblingly and asked, "Won't you come with me?" He only smiled slightly, a smile full of bitterness. "My wife and son are still here. I cannot abandon them." Tears fell from his eyes, his voice breaking. "Brother Chen, in the end I still failed your trust." As the stone door was gradually closing, an assassin rushed over. Vincent immediately blocked the entrance, not retreating a single step as the bright blade sliced down toward his neck. Only one word filled my mind: run. I ran until my legs had no strength left, running through darkness and labored breathing. My mind held only one thought: who did Father truly trust? Who could preserve my life? Father wasn't skilled at socializing, he was respectfully cautious with everyone. But there were two people who had made him show clear emotions. One was Lucas Wang, currently a third-rank imperial censor, who had been Father's examination classmate. He had achieved the top scholar position while Father was second place. His learning was superior by a rank, but his appearance and advancement were far inferior to Father's. Therefore, he was often jealous, finding excuses every few days to submit memorials impeaching Father, even once cursing him directly in court as a hunting dog. Hearing only this, one might think he was upright, unwilling to bow to powerful ministers. But the reality was completely opposite. He had never criticized Chancellor Yan, even going out of his way to flatter him, only focused on slandering Father before Yan. Everyone in court knew the relationship between these two was tense as a bowstring, openly hostile. And this time, the Chen family's destruction was also caused by his accusations. The second person was Charles Zhou, Grand Court of Judicial Review, also third rank, a few years older than Father. They often arranged to play chess together, kindred spirits. Only when with Charles Zhou did Father truly smile. Now I had reached a three-way intersection. On the left was the estate of Imperial Censor Lucas Wang, on the right was the estate of Grand Court Charles Zhou. Which direction should I choose? There was no time to hesitate. I clutched my cloak tightly and immediately turned right. The sky had completely darkened. The capital was under strict curfew, so the streets were as silent as death, with only the sound of hurried footsteps mingling with my pounding heartbeat echoing through the night. From the distance, I heard the sound of horse hooves and commotion. The pursuers had caught up. I ran faster, my breath burning like fire, searing my throat and every inch of my chest. At the end of the street, torches blazed brightly, with shadows moving frantically. They had arrived. I used all my strength, rushing straight to the Zhou family estate, pounding hard on the gate. "Master Zhou, I am the daughter of Thomas. Please save my life, please." Before my words finished, a long whip wrapped around my waist from behind, and my entire body was yanked into the air. When I fell, I was already on horseback, held tightly by a man from behind. One of his hands held my waist, while the other controlled the horse as it flew through the night like lightning. He wore a mask, with several highly skilled subordinates following closely behind. But the pursuing troops were too numerous and well-equipped. Soon arrows came like rain. Whoosh! Whoosh! Volleys of arrows tore through the wind. Though his subordinates turned to fight, shouting, "Master, go ahead." The arrows formed like a net. I clearly felt his body tremble slightly. When I turned to look, he immediately pressed my head down, his voice harsh and low, "Want to die?" Behind us, flames filled the sky. The Zhou estate had been burned down. The pursuers continued their relentless chase. Finally, we were driven to the edge of a cliff face. Before us was a bottomless abyss, behind us were the pursuers hot on our heels. He held me close, leaping from the horse's back. Glancing down at the abyss, he jumped without any hesitation. In that moment in mid-air, he turned his body to use his own back to absorb the impact when we hit the icy water below. The violent collision immediately knocked him unconscious, while I was also dazed to the point of nearly fainting. Gritting my teeth to endure, I struggled with all my might to pull him to shore. The pale moonlight shone down, and only then did I discover an arrow already embedded in his back. He must have been shot earlier, when we were still at the Zhou estate gate. My hands trembled as I removed the mask from his face. As expected, it was Adrian Yan. In the dark night, I didn't dare light a fire for fear of being discovered by pursuers. Remembering what Nanny Chen had taught me, I used some basic medical techniques for first aid. Fortunately, the arrow hadn't hit a vital spot. His entire body was pale and cold, trembling intermittently. I couldn't let him die. I quickly removed the wet clothes from his body, hanging them on a tree to dry, then followed the moonlight to find herbs to stop bleeding, chewing them and applying them to his wound. The bleeding stopped, but his body continued shaking uncontrollably. Not caring about the difference between men and women, I held him in my arms, transferring warmth to preserve the life of the person who had saved me. If he died here, right in my arms, I wouldn't know how to repay this debt of gratitude. That night felt endless. I don't know how many times I pressed my hand to his chest to check his heartbeat. Until dawn broke and my eyelids grew heavy from exhaustion, he suddenly opened his eyes. Seeing both of us pressed close together, he immediately pushed me away, his voice harsh. "What have you done to me?" I calmly replied. "It was a temporary measure to save your life. Only you and I are here, no one else will know of this." He paused. "No one knows, so it's as if it never happened. We were so intimate, it's no different from." I looked straight into his eyes and asked back, "No different from what?" "Your Highness is so concerned. Could it be that at your age, you've never been close to a woman?" His cheeks flushed slightly. "How could that be? With my status, there are countless maids warming beds." Perhaps not wanting to continue this topic, he changed to a cold tone. "Do you know? You've fallen into a trap. It's because of your foolishness that your father's friend and his entire family have been executed." I immediately protested. "He wasn't." His gaze wavered as I emphasized each word clearly and certainly. "He wasn't my father's friend. What happened yesterday was just one link in a chess game arranged beforehand. The person truly controlling everything wasn't Mrs. Wu. Vincent was the one behind it all. His most insidious tactic was borrowing a blade to kill. Very likely, he had either truly submitted to Chancellor Yan or been forced to the point of having no other choice. If I had died at the Yan estate yesterday, he would have immediately denied all connections. He had arranged everything perfectly to avoid suspicion. But what he didn't expect was that I would be fortunate enough to survive. Therefore, he was forced to make another move, taking the lives of the servants and maids in the estate to stage a touching performance, making me believe that he truly wanted to protect me. When the stone door closed and I threw myself into the secret passage, I almost believed it was real. I tried to guess who could truly save me. And in that moment, scattered memories suddenly flooded back. Since entering the Wu estate, Vincent had always appeared kind to me, often chatting and recounting memories of him and my father. Your father was a quiet man, not close to anyone. Now facing such upheaval, no one wants to mention him. I don't know who else to talk to about him, so I'll tell you instead. It turned out he had been subtly probing to extract the list of father's true friends. Even when confining me to the secret passage, he didn't forget to instruct earnestly, "Child, go find those your father once trusted." But I understood clearly, if father had known danger lay ahead, he would never have led me to endanger those he cherished. If they were truly close friends, they too wouldn't want to implicate those they valued. Adrian Yan had already changed into dry clothes, his voice sharp and cold. "You saw through his scheme. Then why did you still?" I bowed my head, cutting him off, whispering like a passing breeze. "I didn't think anyone would come to save me. I thought I would certainly die. So if I had to die, at least I should drag one villain down to hell with me, so I could proudly tell father something in the afterlife." When driven to that fateful crossroads, I suddenly remembered an old incident. Years ago, father had argued fiercely with Master Wang. Lucas Wang became so angry he threw an inkstone, injuring father's forehead. I was both shocked and angry, cursing Lucas Wang thoroughly. Then father sternly told me not to speak nonsense. I asked why he didn't hate someone who had hurt him. He only said, "Child, don't judge people only by their surface." I didn't understand then, and he didn't explain further. As for Charles Zhou, father often played chess with him, using a special chess set. After each game, he had to have it thoroughly cleaned, while other sets were never treated so carefully. Once I wanted to learn chess and set up that particular set. Father immediately frowned, "Put it away. Don't use that set." I thought it was because the chess set was valuable and he feared I'd damage it. Thinking back now, I understand in his heart it had become tainted. Charles Zhou always dressed impeccably and liked burning incense. If his person wasn't dirty, then his soul was what was filthy. Hearing this, Adrian Yan's expression changed slightly, his voice deepening. Charles Zhou was still considered neutral in court. I didn't expect he was actually Chancellor Yan's man. I immediately asked back, my voice sharp as a blade. And what about you? The Yan family values you so highly, why are you doing these things behind their backs? He paused. Right now I can't tell you, but by saving you, I risked my life. You should understand that Chancellor Yan and I are not on the same path. We have the same goal. Can you give me those pieces of evidence now? I answered definitively. He left nothing behind. Impossible. I continued. Perhaps they're with Lucas Wang. I deliberately told him about father's past dealings with Charles Zhou, so he'd understand why I chose the Zhou estate as my burial place, but I absolutely didn't mention Lucas Wang. His eyes immediately lit up. Lucas Wang, the imperial censor, Chancellor Yan's trusted lackey, also your father's mortal enemy. Is it him? Adrian Yan immediately plucked a leaf and whistled sharply. In just a moment, dozens of black-clad figures emerged from the forest. They appeared too quickly, clearly having awaited orders from the start. I was startled, a chill running down my spine. Could he be the one controlling this entire chess game? Had I once again caused the death of father's friend? Those people approached, helping him remove the arrow from his back. He winced in pain. Seeing my pale complexion, he forced a smile. It's not what you think. You and I are on the same side. They are my loyal retainers. Without orders, they wouldn't reveal themselves. As soon as he finished speaking and the arrow was pulled out, he groaned in pain and fainted. The retainers carried both of us away from the mountain region, but assassins had begun searching everywhere. Determined to see us dead or alive, carrying both me and him severely slowed their speed. When passing an ancient temple, the leader of the retainers suddenly pulled me from the horse, threw me before the temple gate, then immediately led his people away without looking back. Was I being abandoned? Had he achieved his purpose and now wanted to discard me? Just as the shadows of the retainers completely disappeared, black-clad figures from the forest immediately rushed forward. The midday sun shone directly on the long blades, cold glints flashing painfully bright. In my heart, I cursed Adrian Yan 1,000 times. I turned and ran into the temple, but how could I escape those with superior martial arts? The feeling of death approaching surrounded me, making my heart clench. Just as I turned around, I saw a long blade already raised high, charging straight toward me. The wind whistled coldly, as if trying to tear the air apart. People say, those who die wrongfully often become vengeful spirits. If so, the next person I want to drag down to hell is Adrian Yan. When the assassin's blade was only inches from my head, an arrow tore through the wind, carrying the force of thunder, piercing straight into the man's chest. He screamed in pain, his trembling hand causing the blade to veer off course, only grazing my face and cutting off a strand of black hair that fluttered in the wind before falling at my feet. A woman in ornate robes appeared, holding a large bow, her eyes sharp, her voice echoing. Who dares commit violence before this palace? Capture them all. As soon as she gave the order, hundreds of armored soldiers rushed out from the temple in unison, surrounding the assassins. I was exhausted, my head spinning as I collapsed to the ground. A palace maid stepped forward, calling loudly, "Why don't you pay respects to noble consort Alina?" The person who had just saved me was clearly a brave female general who had charged through battlefields, yet she bore the title of noble consort. It sounded almost like mockery from Chancellor Yan. Her father was General Li, the commander guarding the frontier with 300 Zalozan troops. She had followed her father in training since childhood, entered battle at 11, with outstanding martial skills. Later, she caught the emperor's attention and was granted a position in the imperial harem. It was precisely because of those 300 Zalozan troops that Chancellor Yan, despite controlling court politics, still didn't dare establish a new imperial family. But the frontier was too far away, any troop movement would be exposed, so that force was only enough to restrain, not yet capable of changing the overall situation. The imperial harem had 32 consorts, the empress was Chancellor Yan's niece, and the emperor had only one prince. This time, noble consort Alina had come to the temple incognito to pray for a child. She looked me up and down, her gaze somewhat disdainful, yet she smiled faintly. "This palace finds you pleasing to the eye. Stay and chant sutras with me for a few days." The palace maids led me to bathe and change into clean clothes, then prepared a lavish meal. I ate 3 large bowls, my stomach full to bursting. After the meal, I went to the Buddha hall to kowtow in gratitude. Noble consort Alina sat cross-legged on a cushion, lazily striking a wooden fish. Praying for children like this, what Buddha would bother to respond? Perhaps seeing the doubt in my heart, she put down the wooden fish and spoke directly. I don't believe in gods or Buddhas, only in myself. Then she lay flat on the floor, casually saying, if there were divine beings, why wouldn't they send down lightning to burn the entire Yan family to ashes? She dared say such things. But I didn't. I could only remain silent, not knowing how to respond. She suddenly sprang up, moving close to examine my entire body, her eyes bright with excitement. Your bone structure is excellent, very suitable for martial arts. It's boring here. Why not train with me? You can strengthen your body while learning self-defense for emergencies. We'll start with the advancing horse stance. The more she spoke, the more excited she became. The palace maid standing nearby quietly withdrew, glancing at me with sympathy as she left. Noble consort Alina pulled me to my feet, preparing to begin training immediately when a eunuch hurried in. Your Majesty, Minister Yan requests an audience, saying there's urgent business. The visitor was Mason, Minister of Justice. My heart immediately clenched. He had certainly come for me, but I didn't expect Adrian Yan to accompany him. Just a few hours ago, he had been unconscious with a pale complexion, yet now he appeared as usual, showing no trace of his wound. Mason entered and spoke directly. Noble consort Alina, the former Minister of Revenue Thomas embezzled state funds and killed innocent people. His Majesty has issued an imperial decree to execute all members of the Chen family according to law. However, my investigation revealed that one daughter survived, precisely the woman your Majesty just took in outside the temple. Please hand her over to me. He waved his hand, and soldiers immediately closed in. Noble consort Alina quickly pulled me behind her, shielding me. You say she is, so she must be. Why not just say this palace is also Thomas's daughter and arrest this palace too for execution? Mason smiled coldly. I wouldn't dare, but heaven has eyes. I have evidence. He gestured, and from the ranks of soldiers behind him, a woman with a gaunt figure and bowed head stepped forward, then raised her face. I was stunned into silence. It was Nanny Chen. She had been taken away by the Wu family, and now her entire body was covered with wounds, her flesh torn and tattered. My eyes reddened as I instinctively stepped forward, but noble consort Alina immediately gripped my wrist tightly, signaling me to stay calm. Must I stay calm? Mason raised an eyebrow. Look carefully. Is the person standing beside Her Majesty Thomas's daughter or not? Nanny Chen stared at me intently, her eyes filled with blood. Mason grabbed her hair, pressing a blade to her neck, displaying a cruel smile. Just point out the right person, and I'll spare your life. Speak quickly, is it her or not? I struggled to break free from noble consort Alina's grip, about to open my mouth to reveal the truth when Nanny Chen suddenly screamed, cutting me off. It's not her. She is not. Then, as if to emphasize, she cried out, the young miss is already dead, dead long ago. No one can replace her, no one at all. Blood from her wounds streamed down her face, mixing with tears, making my heart feel torn apart. I only wanted to rush forward and tear Mason to pieces, but reason forced me to stand still. Because if I acted, it would only cause Nanny Chen to die in vain. All the effort to protect me would be wasted. Noble consort Alina's cold laughter rang out. Minister Yan is truly skilled. This palace has gained new insight today. You've been handling cases for so many years. Do you use torture to force confessions in every case? This palace sees clearly that searching for Thomas's daughter is just a pretext. Taking this opportunity to drag me down as well is your real purpose. As soon as she finished speaking, the guards behind her stepped forward in unison, forming a protective barrier around us. Then Adrian Yan stepped forward from behind, speaking quietly to his father. Father, now is not the time for direct confrontation. We'll find another way. After saying this, they withdrew. Before leaving, Adrian Yan turned back to look at me, his gaze deep and unfathomable. Noble consort Alina glanced at him coldly, saying indifferently, see that? That young man is still making eyes at you? What? Making eyes? I think that look was more like a soul-piercing warning to behave. After Mason left, anger was still clearly visible in noble consort Alina's eyes. If it were up to me, why waste effort? Just kill that old man and be done with it. Once the root is destroyed, what can the remaining parasites do? Indeed, the Yan family controlled the realm. How could they be forced to admit guilt based solely on a few pieces of evidence my father had collected? The very fact that they were desperately trying to eliminate everyone was proof enough that there were deeper secrets behind it all. I lowered my voice. Your Majesty speaks truly. This humble woman doesn't understand why everything is so complicated. Aren't their crimes something that could be revealed with simple investigation? Why must they rely on my father's evidence to convict them? Noble consort Alina let slip. Isn't it because your father knew? Then she stopped abruptly, looking around before lowering her voice. Enough. The more you know, the faster you die. Let those scheming people handle their own secret struggles. She slowly continued, her voice sinking as if from the depths of her heart. After dragging on for so many years, it's finally time to end. I remained at the temple with noble consort Alina for 10 days of vegetarian observance. Finally, we received the imperial decree permitting our return to the palace. Upon hearing the news, noble consort Alina was so overjoyed she nearly wept. Quickly send word down, have the kitchen prepare a feast. A martial artist like me forced to eat vegetarian food for 10 days, I nearly lost my life. On the way back, our carriage passed by the Grand Court Charles Joe's estate. Before our eyes lay only ruins and devastation, with bloodstains still not completely faded. Charles Joe, Chancellor Yan's secret chess piece, had brought disaster upon his entire clan because I had sought refuge there. Chancellor Yan couldn't be bothered to investigate or inquire. Better to kill the wrong person than let one escape. Killing an entire household of high officials in one night showed just how ruthless he was. The carriage turned into another street, and the Wu estate came into view. The scene of bloody carnage from that day was still etched deep in my memory. Yet now this estate looked no different from any other official's residence, standing majestically as if there had never been a massacre. I was about to lower the curtain when suddenly the main gate opened, and a voice called out, "Your Highness, please accept our respects." Victor smiled brightly as he escorted Grace Yan from behind a screen, followed by Vincent, who respectfully saw off his guests. The man who had been covered in blood that day, whom I thought had died under the blade, was now healthy and cheerful, as if nothing had ever happened. Grace Yan smiled gently. "No need to see us off. Brother Victor, I'll come again in a few days to seek your guidance on poetry. Will you be free?" Victor flattered her in response. "Whenever Princess Grace needs me, I'm always available." She nodded farewell, and as soon as she looked up, she caught sight of me looking down from the carriage. She raised an eyebrow with a half-smile, half-mocking expression. "Brother Victor, your unwed bride has returned. I didn't expect her to still be alive. You two surely have much to discuss. I won't disturb you further." After speaking, she paid no attention to Victor's pleading gaze and gracefully turned to leave with her maid. The Wu estate was just a small piece in a larger chess game. The players had never bothered to inform them that I had survived and returned. When I stepped down from the carriage, the entire Wu family looked as if they had seen a ghost, everyone's face changing colored. I took one step forward, and they took one step back. I looked at Vincent and said gently, "Uncle Wu, seeing that you're still alive fills me with genuine joy. If not for your rescue that day, I would have perished long ago. I will remember this debt of gratitude forever in my heart. From now on, I will personally serve tea every day and devote myself entirely to caring for you." Vincent's face turned deathly pale, sweat dripping from his forehead. How are you still alive? Don't tell me Uncle Wu hoped I would die." I opened my eyes wide in shock. "You received great favors from my father and promised to treat me like your own flesh and blood. If I had died, wouldn't you fear my father's spirit returning to demand justice?" Vincent panicked and stepped back 2 paces, clearly unable to withstand threats. I turned to look at the pale-faced Victor, gently grasping his sleeve. "Brother Victor, I'm still alive, so our engagement remains as before. Are you happy?" Victor pushed my hand away, cutting me off. "Who wants to marry you? Didn't you see just now? Princess Grace and I now have mutual affection. I advise you to know your place and leave quickly. Chancellor Yan won't spare you. You're the daughter of a criminal minister, fundamentally unworthy of me. But the entire capital knows about our engagement." Back then, Vincent was so careful in his arrangements, helping create a false identity for you. How could such thorough planning have any oversights? Victor was both afraid and angry. "So what? Just because we're engaged means it can't be broken. I'll write you a letter of annulment right now." Vincent and Mrs. Wu were also eager to sever all ties with me. A maid brought ink and brush, and Victor immediately wrote the annulment letter on the spot. From now on, we go our separate ways in marriage, each to our own path, with no further connection. I took the annulment letter, turned my back, and walked decisively out of the Wu estate. Vincent hurried after me, his expression a mix of guilt and suspicion. Wang Shu, Chancellor Yan used his position and the lives of my entire family to pressure me. I had no choice. I probed many times before, and if you had given me an answer then, I wouldn't have had to rack my brains scheming, causing several lives in the estate to be lost. Don't blame me either. Now that you've preserved your life, you must have given Chancellor Yan what he wanted. After all, we're still on the same side. I replied coldly. I told him nothing at all. Vincent was shocked. Then how did you preserve your life? A carriage parked at the street corner slowly rolled forward. Noble consort Alina lifted the curtain, her voice carrying a hint of irritation. Are you finished yet? You have quite the nerve, making this palace wait so long. Vincent's expression suddenly changed, and he immediately prostrated himself on the ground. This humble minister pays respects to noble consort Alina. Hearing the commotion, Mrs. Wu and Victor also hurried out, kneeling together in obeisance. Noble consort Alina looked over at Victor. Raise your head. Victor looked up, forcing an ingratiating smile. Noble consort Alina snorted as if she had just seen something filthy. She turned her face away, saying coldly, with such an effeminate appearance, you still dream of marrying a princess. She turned to instruct the accompanying palace maid. Tomorrow, send the Wu estate several bronze mirrors, so these three can look at themselves more often when they have free time. Among the three faces pale as paper, I climbed into noble consort Elena's carriage, heading toward the imperial palace. The blazing sunlight scorched the entire world until it burned. I carried with me what Chancellor Yan wanted, at least he believed I did, and noble consort Alina's public acceptance of me represented His Majesty's attitude. It seemed this battle, like the summer sun, had reached its most brilliant and scorching moment. But even within the imperial palace, safety wasn't guaranteed. Fortunately, noble consort Alina took me everywhere she went. That day, Adrian Yan entered the palace for an audience with His Majesty. In terms of bloodline, he had to address His Majesty as uncle. I was carrying a tray of refreshments that noble consort Alina had ordered, walking past him. He said quietly, I've already sent her away. I breathed a sigh of relief. Nanny Chen is still alive. That's wonderful. Thousands of words of gratitude stuck in my throat, unable to be spoken, so I could only hide them deep in my heart, silently praying that all would go smoothly. Nanny Chen and I would surely be reunited someday. That afternoon, His Majesty seemed to become a different person. He continuously ignored Chancellor Yan's recommendations when appointing officials, directly placing his own people in important positions like Minister of Revenue and Grand Court of Justice. Not only that, he also directly dismissed many branches of the Yan family, even touching their distant relatives. Mason, Chancellor Yan's third son, who held a position in the Ministry of Works, was accused of murdering court officials. The evidence was extremely solid, and His Majesty resolutely followed the law, sentencing him to execution after autumn. Now there was less than a month until the autumn equinox. Mason was Chancellor Yan's most capable son, while the third son was also his youngest and most beloved child. His Majesty pressed step by step, finally making Chancellor Yan unable to endure any longer. And then that day arrived. The Jude Palace was strictly surrounded by imperial guards. Noble consort Alina wore battle robes, holding a long spear as she stood majestically at the palace entrance. Outside, the sounds of shouting and killing shook the heavens. His Majesty still sat upright on the dragon throne, his back straight, but if you looked carefully you could still see his shoulders trembling slightly, tense to the extreme. Not to mention the palace maids and eunuchs behind him, some had already begun sobbing in fear. Amid the sounds of battle cries and flames blazing everywhere, noble consort Alina turned back, her voice resolute. Don't be afraid. This palace will be the final wall protecting you all. His Majesty seemed to relax slightly. He stepped down from the dragon throne, standing beside noble consort Alina, his voice echoing throughout the hall. Today, we shall live and die together with all of you. Advancing together, retreating together, surviving together, perishing together. From dark night until dawn broke, both sides suffered countless casualties. The palace corridors were stained deep red with fresh blood. During my days in the palace, noble consort Alana had me practice martial arts constantly. Though time was short, I only learned 2 basic moves, straight thrust and surprise attack. Yet these 2 simple techniques helped me kill 2 enemies during the chaos, preserving my own life. The guards beside His Majesty had nearly all perished, leaving only a few palace maids, eunuchs, and myself. Noble consort Alina was also severely wounded. Though Chancellor Yan's side had lost many, he still had over 100 soldiers behind him. He stood under the blazing sun, his eyes sharp as an eagle's, locked onto us. Your Majesty, be content with being emperor and obey peacefully, wouldn't that be good? This old minister with white hair never wanted to resort to violence again. Why must you force this old minister? He waved his hand. Behind him, soldiers simultaneously drew their bows and nocked arrows, his face cold as ice. Before his words ended, Adrian Yan, standing right beside him, suddenly acted. His long sword pierced straight through Chancellor Yan's chest with a sharp sound. The bloody sword tip emerged from his front, and Chancellor Yan looked at him in disbelief. You are a member of the Yan family, how dare you? Adrian Yan withdrew the sword, fresh blood gushing like a spring, staining the palace stones red, blood spattering into his eyes. He lowered his gaze, saying coldly, I am a member of the imperial family. Though wounded, Chancellor Yan didn't fall. His trembling hand pressed against the bloody wound as he burst into mad laughter. Your Majesty? Oh, Your Majesty, you calculated everything, scheming and plotting, wanting to seize my people, my power, gathering the entire realm into your hands. But this realm is empty now. He laughed to the point of madness. The state treasury, the imperial treasury, all completely empty. Not a single copper coin left. Take this hollow dynasty if you want it. I want to see how long you can sit on this throne. After speaking, he collapsed to the ground, but his eyes remained wide open, his breath not yet completely gone. Chancellor Yan's people began turning their weapons in rebellion, and combined with noble consort Alina's brother arriving just in time with reinforcements, they immediately gained control of the battle outside. His Majesty took my hand, slowly walking to stand before Chancellor Yan. He looked down at him from above, his eyes showing both grief and satisfaction. I still have her. She will tell me where the treasures are hidden. Chancellor Yan's eyes suddenly bulged. How could you possibly know? With those words, his breath ceased entirely. His Majesty bent down, slowly reaching to close those staring eyes, but no matter how many times he tried, he couldn't get them to close. His Majesty smiled faintly, his voice growing heavy. Teacher, father figure, I lost my parents early, and you once promised to protect this realm for me for life. Was it all deception? The sun rose above the horizon. The first light illuminated the world, clearly revealing the fresh blood and evil that filled this place. I thought perhaps he would never receive an answer in this lifetime. What Chancellor Yan said wasn't entirely wrong. His Majesty had staged this grand drama for 2 purposes. First, to force the Yan family to rebel, making their destruction legal and justified. Second, with the crime of treason, the Yan family would certainly reveal all their final trump cards. Only this way could they completely eliminate the Yan family's faction and quickly restore purity to the court. Previously, the Ministry of Revenue and Imperial Treasury had always been in Chancellor Yan's hands. Now, after inspection, they discovered not only was the state treasury empty, but it also owed countless debts to the people. His Majesty had gained control of the government. But if he wanted to fill the state treasury, the most direct method was raising taxes. However, taxes were already too heavy. If they continued increasing them, popular resentment would boil over, and this throne wouldn't remain stable either. There was still another way. Our dynasty's founding emperor was born in chaotic times and established the Great Chu through conquests in all directions. He had taken the treasures collected during his military campaigns and divided them, hiding them everywhere. Later, when the realm was peaceful and he focused on governance, those treasures were never touched again. When the previous emperor ascended the throne, he soon fell gravely ill and died. Chancellor Yan had been the previous emperor's childhood study companion, and the previous emperor had entrusted the current emperor to his care. Among these responsibilities was a map of the treasure locations. In recent years, Chancellor Yan had controlled court politics, gradually emptying the state treasury and transferring all that silver into those hidden treasures. My father had stayed beside Chancellor Yan for many years precisely to obtain the coordinates of these treasure locations. His Majesty summoned Lucas Liu. He stepped forward, presenting 3 paintings with a somewhat embarrassed expression. Brother Chen had anticipated trouble before the incident occurred and instructed me to guard these 3 paintings carefully. The paintings showed 3 extremely fawning dogs. Lucas Liu had been openly antagonistic toward my father, frequently arguing. He often called my father a hunting dog. My father responded with these very 3 paintings, a silent counterattack meaning, "You are the dog." Therefore, even if Chancellor Yan had obtained these paintings, he wouldn't have grown suspicious. His Majesty looked at me, his eyes full of expectation. "Quickly tell me, where are the treasures?" I was genuinely bewildered. When I parted from father, I was only 8 years old, and he had hardly ever discussed court matters with me. Moreover, though he was favored by Chancellor Yan then, I feared he still couldn't access the secrets about the treasures. How could an 8-year-old child like me solve a riddle that father had deliberately left behind after 6 years? His Majesty tried many methods, using fire to heat them, spraying water to reveal hidden colors, examining every hair on the dogs in the paintings up close to see if any secrets were hidden. But there were still no clues. Meanwhile, heavy rains in Jiangnan caused dike breaches and floods. The people suffered indescribably, urgently needing silver for relief. Reports from below grew thicker each day, with the number of people dying from starvation and drowning doubling daily. Local officials desperately petitioned the court for aid, their pleas growing more urgent by the day. His Majesty gradually lost patience and one day became angry with me. "Chen Wangshu, is it because of Chen Aiqing's death that you hate me and deliberately refuse to tell me how to solve this? Half a month before Lord Chen died, he mentioned you twice, you who had been dead for years. Wasn't this a clear hint to me?" Below, everyone was silent as death. Only Adrian Yan, who now had to be called Adrian Song, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, Miss Chen absolutely would not let personal grievances interfere with the life and death of the common people. Please grant her more time." That night I dreamed of father. He loved painting very much and sometimes taught me to draw. He enjoyed painting many animals, rabbits, roosters, mandarin ducks. He would hold my hand, teaching me how to hold the brush and sketch each detail. The eyes were always saved for last. Father once said that when painting living creatures, the most important thing was the eyes. If you could paint a pair of lively eyes, then the creature would have more than half its life force. When I was young, I often couldn't control the brush pressure, causing ink to seep through to the back of the paper. The ink marks would print onto the page below. On that paper was a drawing. I once blew dry those ink spots and asked father what this was. Father replied, "This is a map." I pointed to an ink dot. "That's Mount Tai. Is it tall?" "Very tall. I want to visit it someday." I jolted awake from the dream, hurriedly threw on a thick robe, and ran down the corridor straight to His Majesty's chamber. I know now. I know the answer. In the Ministry of Justice's storehouse, I turned everything upside down, and among the confiscated items from the Chen estate, I finally found a map with exactly the same size and material as those 3 dog paintings. Placing the 3 dog paintings over the map and marking the locations of their eyes, I obtained 3 locations. His Majesty was overjoyed to the point of madness, immediately ordering people to search for the treasures that very night. One of the 3 locations was closest to the capital. 5 days later, His Majesty received good news via carrier pigeon. Found it. His Majesty didn't even glance at the gold and silver, directly ordering it all sent to the flood-stricken areas for relief. The other 2 locations also brought back good news in succession. In those treasure hoards were not only the jewels left by the founding emperor, but also the silver that Chancellor Yan had drained from the state treasury over the years, plus countless tribute from local regions, the sweat and blood of the people. Governing a country is like managing a household. Without money, not a single step can be taken. Now with money paving the way, the court was no longer struggling in poverty. His Majesty promoted worthy talent for political reform. He also cleared my father's name of the false charge of being a traitorous minister, ordering the court historians to record his complete life story. My father's remains had been secretly preserved with care early on. Now, he held a grand reburial for father, personally writing a memorial inscription. He also specially ennobled me as Princess of Xianjiang County, granting me an estate and stipend. Before all the civil and military officials, He promised that regardless of whom I married in the future, he would take 1,000 precious items from the founding emperor's treasures as my dowry. Since I was now an orphan, His Majesty specially ordered the Imperial Household Department to prepare an ennoblement banquet for me. On the day of the banquet, Victor came uninvited. Vincent had always maintained a neutral stance, only once scheming against me to curry favor with the Yan family. On the day the Yan family rebelled, at the crucial moment when Adrian Yan stabbed Chancellor Yan, Vincent immediately followed suit, using a vegetable knife to wound the stunned mason, which counted as a merit. His Majesty wanted to stabilize the court, so he balanced merits and demerits, allowing him to keep his fifth-rank position. But everyone understood that the Wu family's path in officialdom had reached its end. His Majesty didn't pursue the matter further. It was merely out of necessity given the circumstances. Vincent had bet multiple times. How could he still hope for the Emperor's trust? Victor was different. He had broken our engagement and joyfully announced it throughout the capital, then hurriedly ran to court Princess Grace, only to be rejected. Now that I had become a county princess with noble status, his quick face, changing antics had become a laughingstock for the entire capital. Victor had always been arrogant, but now standing before me, he didn't lower himself to the point of kneeling and crying. Only his gaze clung to me, filled with regret, bitterness, and longing that he couldn't hide no matter how hard he tried. Among the countless banquet guests, he still found an opportunity to intercept me in the corridor. He held up a jade bracelet. Wang Shu. This is what my grandmother gave me before she died, her wedding gift. She said that if I ever met the woman of my heart, I could use this as a betrothal gift. I was wrong, terribly wrong. Only today do I understand that the person I've always been happy with, always loved, was you. I cut him off. Victor, you're a scholar after all, don't you have any dignity left? When you wrote that annulment letter, I harbored no resentment. We were only ever a temporary arrangement. Princess Grace truly is of noble birth and charmingly innocent. But once you decided to pursue her and were rejected, you can't turn back to me. What do you think we women are? If His Majesty hadn't ennobled me as county princess today, would you still find me attractive? If you want advancement, climb by your own strength. Princess Grace isn't your stepping stone, and neither am I. Well said. The crisp sound of applause rang out from behind. It was Princess Grace. She walked over with a bright smile, glaring at Victor. People who change with the weather are the most detestable. How dare you claim to be worthy of Sister Wang Shu? Victor finally knew to preserve his dignity and ran off with his head down. Princess Grace smiled and linked arms with me. Sister Wang Shu spoke incorrectly. I'm not knave at all. I deliberately let in all. If he were truly an upright gentleman, he would know to maintain proper boundaries and not harbor improper thoughts. But he's not. He's just a petty man. How could he be worthy of you? Sister Wang Shu, why not become my sister-in-law? My brother is 100 times better than him. You two should have been engaged years ago. I laughed. Your brother isn't much better either. He must have over a dozen women in his chambers. Princess Grace's eyes widened. What? My brother is famous for his purity. He doesn't even have a single beautiful maid by his side. All his attendants are young men. Even when visiting the Flower and Moon Pavilion, he only drinks weak wine. There was once a courtesan who became infatuated with my brother and tried every means to seduce him, but he... Princess Grace leaned closer, her eyes bright with excitement as she chattered with me. Just then, a few light coughs sounded from behind. Adrian Song's face was slightly flushed as he interrupted. Stop talking. Doesn't a lady like you know shame? Princess Grace made a face and ran off with her maid. Only Adrian Song and I remained facing each other in the long corridor. He broke the silence first. Teacher often mentioned you to me. Hearing this, I was momentarily stunned, almost forgetting that my father had once been his tutor. Previously, he had never mentioned family matters, only teaching me lessons. But after you faked your death, he often told me some interesting stories about you. He paused, smiling slightly. He said that when you were 5, you fell into the lotus pond while playing and nearly drowned. When rescued, he was furious and wanted to spank you. But you gave him a very large shell, saying you'd found it in the mud and that there must be a pearl inside. He said you were a picky eater and would secretly stuff unwanted food into your sleeves. He said you once secretly drank rice wine and got so drunk you babbled about becoming empress and making him prime minister. He said he was naturally cold and aloof, rarely smiling at you, but you never minded, always chattering around him about this and that. You were very clever and could even solve the complex 9-linked ring puzzle. You were also very clever, always devising games of wit to play with teacher. He looked at me deeply, his voice softening. Though you and I only met briefly once, because teacher constantly mentioned you, I felt as if I had personally witnessed you growing up bit by bit. So, Wang Shu, I've actually known you for a very long time. To you, I'm just a stranger you briefly encountered, but to me, you're like a childhood sweetheart who grew up with me. That rainy night when you sought shelter, I recognized you immediately just from a glance. When you became Victor's fiancé, I was angry that you didn't know how to fight for yourself. When you fell into a trap, I instinctively acted to help. When you told me you had seen through the Wu family's schemes early on, my heart was filled with immense joy. This is who you truly are, the Chen Wangshu that teacher described, the Chen Wangshu I had always imagined. 6 years ago, teacher refused the marriage proposal precisely because he feared you would fall into danger. His voice gradually softened, carrying tenderness and hope. Now everything has settled, and you know I'm not part of the Yan faction. From now on, I will definitely protect you completely. What I love isn't your appearance or family background. I love you as a person, your wisdom, your character. I cherish the path you've walked and wish to walk the remaining journey of life together with you. Wang Shu, will you agree? My heart stirred with emotion, partly due to his sudden confession, partly because of father. You were naturally a man of few words, calm and restrained to the extreme. Before I faked my death, you almost deliberately hid my existence from everyone. But after I died, you constantly mentioned me to Adrian Song. Was it because of longing? Of course, that wasn't the only reason. My father was a man who knew self-control. He did this deliberately. He knew how dangerous what he was doing was. He sensed foreboding and knew there might come a day when he would lose his life. Even though I had faked my death to escape, he still feared the Yan family would discover me. Adrian Song was the most outstanding among the Yan family's younger generation, the one Chancellor Yan loved and trusted most. Therefore father continuously mentioned me, constantly weaving my image into his heart. He made Adrian Song remember me, feel sympathy for me. He was preparing a final path of survival for me. If there ever came a day when I truly fell into the Yan faction's hands, then Adrian Song, who had grown up with me in spirit, would look upon our past bond and the teacher-student relationship to spare my life. Father, you loved me far more than I ever realized. And more than that, you loved the common people of this realm. Father, you held firm to your ideals of helping the world and saving all people, yet at the same time you loved your daughter so deeply. I'm sorry, Father, only today do I truly understand the full extent of your love. That love transcends mountains and rivers, pierces through life and death like great waves crashing over me. For 8 years I had been separated from Father, but Father's love will forever remain by my side. My tears flowed like a bursting dam, impossible to control. Adrian Song was bewildered, not knowing what to do. Did I say something wrong? This is also my first time liking a young lady. If there's anything I did poorly, just tell me and I'll correct it. Teacher once taught me that recognizing mistakes and correcting them is more precious than anything. Seeing me only bow my head and cry, he slowly lowered his voice sadly. Or do you not like me? That's fine too. From now on, just think of me as your older brother. I'll treat you like I treat Grace. Is that acceptable, you fool? How did Father manage to teach such a fool? In the end, I stayed with Adrian Song. He was the person Father had chosen for me and had devoted himself to cultivating. Years ago, he refused this marriage because he feared I would fall into danger. But now there was nothing left to fear. After we confessed our feelings, Adrian Song entered the palace and knelt before His Majesty to request permission for our marriage. He knelt for 2 full days and nights before His Majesty finally nodded agreement. At that time, I still didn't understand why His Majesty made our marriage so difficult. It wasn't until the Jiangnan floods were resolved and during the Grand New Year celebrations that His Majesty issued an edict establishes Adrian Song as Crown Prince, while simultaneously restoring Princess Grace's royal status. Only then did I realize in shock that Adrian Song and Princess Grace were both children of His Majesty and noble consort Alina. Previously, when the Yan family's daughter served as Empress and controlled the imperial harem, offspring in the palace were extremely scarce. They absolutely would not allow noble consort Alina's children to live. So after giving birth, noble consort Alina had to find ways to send her children away from the palace. The most dangerous place was also the safest place. Both children were given the false identity of being Mason's children, raised under the third princess's protection. As for the third princess, after marrying Mason, she secretly took medicine to prevent pregnancy. She couldn't bear children for the Yan family because once she had children, there would be bonds, weaknesses, and barriers. When the time came, no matter which side won, that child would be in an awkward position. Adrian became crown prince, and I became crown princess. After His Majesty passed away, Adrian ascended the throne, and I became empress, mother to the realm. Father, do you see? Your daughter truly became empress. It's just a pity I can no longer make you first-rank prime minister. True love transcends death and time. A father's sacrifice, though appearing cruel, was actually the deepest protection, staging his daughter's death to save her life. Love isn't always gentle gestures. Sometimes it's making impossible choices that wound your heart to shield another's future. Even when separated by deception and years, genuine care finds ways to guide, protect, and ultimately reunite. The most profound love often requires the greatest sacrifice, teaching us that those who truly love us may hurt us temporarily to save us permanently.